You're live, Chair.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee, 23rd of September 2025. Before I start, I'll just do a quick round the table because we've got some new faces up here today and we'll all introduce ourselves. I'll start with you, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I'm Charlie Martin from Bishop Fleming. I'm the key audit partner for the accounts that we've got tabled today.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jo McCormick from Devon Assurance Partnership. Here today with Darren, but I'll let Darren introduce himself. But I was managing, overseeing Torridge with Brad, who is still with us, but concentrating on risk management.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darren Roberts. I am Assurance Manager for Torridge District Council and the other two districts, Mid Devon and North Devon as well. So, taken over from Brad.
Well, good afternoon, Peter Hames, representing Appledore Ward.
Good afternoon, I'm Anna Fay, Service Improvement Officer.
I'm Philip Hackett, Chair.
I'm Jude Gubb, Vice Chair. I represent Easter Water.
Peter Hudson, Finance Manager and Section 151 Officer.
I'm Stacey Dorey, Head of Legal Governance.
Kerry O'Rourke, and I'm the Appledore Ward also.
Shirley Ann Andrews, I'm Heartland and Bradworthy.
Right. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Brenton and Mark Poppy, the non-elected member.
Thanks, Lauren. Minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of July, pages 3 to 8. They've been previously circulated, so if there's anything anybody wishes to raise, please let me know. I'm happy to propose from the chair that they're a true record of our meeting. Jude, second. All those in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous. And on to page 9, which is the action list. We have 1 minute, 203, raised by Councillor Gibson. Members questioned if they would receive AI training. Members are informed that this could be incorporated into the 6-monthly training for councillors. And we've got it marked as ongoing with the correspondence there listed, so we can sign that one off. I move on to item 4, declaration of interests. Members with interest should refer to the agenda item and describe the nature of their interest when the item is to be considered. Item 5, agreement of agenda items parts 1 and 2. We do have a part 2, so I'm going to propose from the chair that we go into part 2 at the appropriate time. I'm looking for a seconder. Shirley got there first. All those in favour?
Sorry. It's unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous. Right. Urgent matters brought forward with the permission of the chair. I have none. After finishing here, 10:30 last night, I'd be lynched if I did. Internal update report, internal audit update report, pages 10 to 22, to receive a report from Darren Roberts, Assurance Manager of Devon Assurance Partnership. So, Darren, over to you.
Jo will start us off.
I'll just do a brief intro for the committee. So this is our first update report that we're bringing to you for 25-26 from the plan that was approved in the meeting back in March. It's quite a short report, and that's quite usual for this time of year. Obviously getting audit work up and running, etc. And then we will report again at your next audit committee in December. So the update report is just giving you an update on the work that we've got in train, any work that we have completed and any work that's in progress. And there's some verbal updates that Darren will give on that as well, because obviously working with papers deadline, there's been more movement on that since. Just moving on to the overall opinion statement. So at this current point in time, we're not giving an opinion statement. We give that final end of the year opinion when we come back around July time next year. We start to work up that opinion later in the year. So when we've done more work, then we'll start to build on that. So you might find that when we come to December, actually we've finalised more reports, and then we can start to build up that opinion. Just for reference, the opinion that we gave at the end of year for 24-25 was of reasonable assurance, which is a good opinion to get overall. So we'll start to build that up as we move later through the year. The next page just talks about assurance mapping. I just wanted to mention that today because we do provide assurance maps on the work that we do, which sort of builds sort of our thoughts and our opinions and where they've derived from, and any sort of external assurances as well that pull in from that. But what you'll see as a committee, when we provide our end of year report next year, we'll do an overall assurance opinion on all the work we've done. And that's a nice visual sort of one-page document where you can see sort of anything that you need to be paying attention to, anything that maybe is in the amber, more so than the greens in there. If you've got lots of green, that's a good position to be in, but it really draws the eye. But we can talk about that when we get to that stage later in the year. I'll hand over to Darren, who will go into detail on the work that we've got ongoing at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So page 5 of our report is the summary assurance opinions. Now that lays out what we're going to be covering this year in the 25-26 plan. And I'm pleased to say that the plans commence with the areas highlighted in yellow. Joe's right, the very agile nature through which we submit our papers in between the work that we're doing. There's a few amendments to that one, so we're very close to producing the report for food safety and for governance as well. We've also started the work on corporate health and safety, and we'll be commencing the work very soon on information governance as well. The other slight difference to the plan from last time was we've now had a good session with the lead for technology and digital here. So we're looking at 2 separate reviews under core systems for what's called the CAF Objective A, which is the cyber assessment framework. And secondly, with regards to the digital strategy, which I understand is under compilation at the moment. So we'll probably be helping them out with that towards the end of Q4. Something that I mentioned the A word earlier, being agile, something that we're looking to do as far as these audits are concerned, I was only in post here from the 1st of July, is moving towards a more agile way of actually undertaking the plan as well. So many of the audits in this plan are quite short. So the way I've historically looked at it is that we've been kind of trying to squeeze quite a lot into those individual audits. So the way that I want to do it going forward is by auditing on the one single risk that the service manager is concerned about and making the scopes far tighter as well. Now, my experience is when the reports come out from that, it's very useful then for audit committees to see because it makes the report much more succinct and it makes the areas a lot more tight. We can also be a lot more honest with yourselves with regards to stuff that we have done that's out of scope that can potentially be put into what I call the melting pot for next year for planning going forward. So that's the plan for this one going forward. And can I just say also thank you to Peter and thank you for Gwydion for helping bring this together and for allowing us to put the allocations going forward. So.
Our biggest threat, I would say at the moment, is cybersecurity. You just have to listen what's going on with the airlines, with Jaguar Land Rover, just in the last week, 10 days. Are we robust enough with our cybersecurity? And I know this is a hard and moving target the whole time.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, are we doing all we can that is reasonable and realistic with these threats at the moment?
So this is a step process to enable you to get that assurance. This CAF Objective A is the first step of that. So there are 4 levels in that in total. So it used to line with an old standard still there, ISO 27001. So in my previous audit provider, we broke those down because trying to assess an organisation against that one standard just is impossible. There's 135 controls, you can't do that. So very similar to this one, what they've done is they've broken down those objectives. CAF Objective A is about the high level. So where are we with regards to the cybersecurity strategy? Do we know what we're trying to protect, et cetera, rather than looking at that endpoint? From next year, I'm looking to completely reiterate and recalibrate the way that we look at cyber, not just here, but in all of the districts, in fact, in all of the Devon authorities. And we've got a tool from the IIA called Topical Considerations. So what I'm looking to do is get that review undertaken in every one of the Devon authorities really as soon as possible, starting from Q1 into Q2 for next year. Now, what that will do is that will give us as the auditors a kind of clear a journey really on the individual areas that each authority is having with regards to weakness. As I said, in my previous provider, we used to do this. Common theme that kept coming out was what I would call resilience. The approach to business continuity, the approach to disaster recovery. What would the authority do if they had a Jaguar Land Rover? Yeah, and they've opened up the systems and now found they're all locked out. What's the immediate response to that? What do we do to keep services going, keep systems up and running, et cetera, rather than having to put up the shutters and say, sorry, that we're closed. So that's something that I said I'd like to include in the audit plan for next year. Difficult to put it in for this year because a lot of the plans have already been agreed, but it's I've been really encouraged that, as I said, your technology lead here has reiterated the plan and allowed us to do CAF Objective A, and that will be done towards the end of this year.
Is that John?
John, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Right. Thank you for a very in-depth reply. Thank you. So we will note that report and move on to item 8, the final accounts, to receive an update from the finance manager and section 151 officer. Peter, over to you.
Okay, so this will be reasonably brief because we did a very similar update last audit and governance.
Yeah.
So these are the draft accounts which Bishop Fleming have been auditing. So they're in the process of auditing. Getting towards the end, Charlie's going to give an update on that. Those are the next couple of items. So I won't go into too much detail of the actual accounts. I'm happy to take any questions. Charlie's going to go through the audit and then we're looking to probably sign them off at the next audit and governance. We're still waiting from the pension. We're still waiting from the pension audit to be done, which isn't done by Bishop's Fleming. So if there's
Grant
any,
Thornton.
yeah, I think it's done by Grant Thornton. So if there's any questions on them, they're quite a big document from financial statements.
I personally haven't got any questions because yes, we've looked at it before, and we're going to have an in-depth from you, Charlie. So shall we just move on to the next item if the committee are content? And then we will have the audit completion report, pages 23 to 49. If there's anything we need to bring up,
yep,
we can come back to you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much indeed. So we're note item 8 and move on to item 9, which is the audit completion report between pages 23 and 49, to receive a report from Bishop Fleming, external auditors for Torridge District Council. Charlie, the floor's yours.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I have 2 reports to present here today. And the first is what we call our audit completion reports. So this is a report that summarises the outcome of the work we've done over in auditing the council's financial statements. I just want to start by firstly just expressing our thanks to Peter and the team. We found the audit has gone really well from our perspective and having a good partnership with Peter and the team, and you can see that reflected in the feedback we've given in terms of we've seen the improvements that we expected in terms of having a debrief after last year's audit. We're at a point where the audit has progressed really well. There were a number of items that were ongoing at the time we wrote the reports. Since then, many of them have been resolved. There are some more to resolve, but we expect to be able to resolve them in the coming weeks. But actually, to be honest, they're minor in their nature in the rounds and subject to their successful conclusion. What I'm proposing is it would be an unqualified opinion that will be presented on the accounts for the council. I guess the key item that remains ongoing, which is outside of our control, as Peter's alluded to, is the pension fund assurance. So we get a letter from the pension fund's auditors, which is Grant Thornton, and we've been in contact with them regularly during the summer, and we're expecting that to come back in October. So once we've had that back, we'll be able to finish off our procedures and then obviously then move to be able to sign off the accounts. I guess we're at a point though where the work has proceeded pretty well, and you'll see that reflected in the summary of our work. We've had, I'm pleased to say, no significant issues come up, and no significant adjustments. It's our duty in this report to just summarise everything we have noted. So I'm not going to propose to go through every single point in detail, but I'm happy to take questions on them. But I guess how I would summarise them is really the ones this year are more out of housekeeping, or ones which you have, points of, but you've got suitable mitigations in place. So an example would be the point about journals authorisation. We raise a point about levels of authorisation, but you point out rightly that you've got mitigating controls, and therefore you're happy to accept the current position. But I guess it would be remiss of us not to explain that point. But then otherwise, we've also then made sure to follow up on points that were raised last year, and be able to close down ones which were agreed can be closed down. And I expect more we'll be able to finish once we finalise our remaining pieces of work. We just hold it for the moment until we have completely finished all our work, like I said earlier. And one thing we've made sure to follow up particularly is how depreciation is applied. So members might remember there was a point we picked up on last year's audit about how depreciation was applied on revalue balances, and actually we're satisfied that that has been done correctly. So we've had a few discussions about that. So I suspect that is a point we'll be able to mark as resolved and closed. And then lastly, I'll just say the representation letter. So that's at the back of our papers for the audit completion reports. But there are it's very much similar to last year's. So there's no particular terms in there which are, unique or significant. Instead, it's very much consistent with what we've had compared to last year. I'll pause there on the first report. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions, anyone?
Not for me, but I would like to say thank you for explaining that there will be a completion date to look forward to, and it sounds as though you have everything in hand, and thank you for your team as well, Peter, for working towards that with us.
Yeah.
I would reiterate those comments, and we have an unqualified opinion, which is good. So do we wish to formally adopt that, or do we just note it? What way would you like me to go?
I think we just note it.
We just note it. Okay.
And I get what we do as well. We'll be issuing an updated version of this when we come to sign off the accounts as well. So that will be able to forward across.
Right. Okay. And you've got a second part, item 10, for the 50 to 79.
Yep, that's right, Chair. So this is our auditor's annual report, and this is a second document we're required to issue. This is very much a public document, so it's almost published alongside your accounts when they are signed off as audited on the website. And it's a document which really summarises 3 aspects we're required to consider by the code, and give verbal commentary as to the arrangements in place at the council. So what we try to do is make the commentary, digestible in terms of layman's terms for members of the public to read, because it's a document they will be able to access on the website. But I guess what we're pleased to say is, in terms of the points we note, none of them are significant. Yes, we do note some recommendations, but I would see them more as housekeeping or points that you already were aware of. So again, we've discussed them, we've agreed with management, and you can see they've got their comments. And I guess the last thing I'd say is, again, we've made sure to follow up on points which we'd raised in the prior year, both points we'd raised ourselves, but also points that were ongoing from your previous auditor. So we keep track of those, and again, being able to close off ones we think are appropriate to do so, but also then noting ones which remain ongoing, because either they have been done, but they were just maybe done after March 25, because this report considers the arrangements up to 31 March 25. So if they were resolved after that point, therefore they'll fall out next year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To take any questions.
Peter.
Hi, thanks. So page 66 I've got here. Through you, Chair, some cost of climate commitments. recommendation, council should clearly set out anticipated cost of meeting its climate commitments. And are you, and the responses here are that they're the climate activity is embedded in particular budgets like the property and vehicle budgets and things. Are you happy that that's a sufficient response?
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's a point we noted. I guess it was rated by the predecessor order, so it's one we continue to track. And I guess the response that the council have made makes sense. You know, that they don't explicitly identify it in their budgets, but it's something they actively consider. But we've seen no evidence to say that it you know it's dismissed in that way, if that makes sense. But it's more, I guess, we agree with what the previous auditor said is there any way it could be made more explicit in terms of the budgeting process?
That's still a review.
Yes.
Does that relate to what other councils or some other councils do? Do they identify particular budgets?
Some do, but they would tend to be more your county councils, so the larger authorities. I guess you've got the resources to do so. So it's a matter of being pragmatic about it. So it's one which we raise out of, I guess, good practice compared to what else we've seen. But in terms of the response, we're very much satisfied with it. And like I say, it's not a significant issue. It's more of the other rating one, I guess, more of a housekeeping minor point.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, if there are no further questions, we will note that report and move on to item number 11, the corporate risk summarised on page 73. To receive a report from the finance manager, section 151 officer. Peter again.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a summary of the corporate risk register, and we'll go into a bit more detail in part 2. So this is just the 11 corporate risks that have been identified. So we have a corporate risk management group who meet quarterly in advance of audit and governance and go through and review the register, see if there's any additions or anything which needs to be taken off. But there aren't any new risks. I think 1 or 2 have just had minor adjustments, but so generally it's reasonably consistent with previous time. Happy to take any questions, though I'd want to wait for part 2.
I think part 2 would be a good place to raise any concerns. If the committee are happy with that.
Yes.
Okay, so for now we will note that, and we'll very quickly look at the forward plan on 74 and 75 and item 12. This committee seems to sort of diary itself very nicely with the events that come in, so I think we can just note it and take it as read. If you are happy, committee? Yep. Okay, so now I will move item 13, the exclusion of the public. As chair, I move that the public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting because of the likely disclosure of exempt information by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 and paragraph 10 of part 2 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. I'm looking for a seconder. Jude, thank you. All those in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
And I will close the meeting at 2:31. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren and Shelby. Thank you.